Something very special is happening with the Ottawa Senators as Linus Ullmark is the best goalie in the NHL right now. Travis Green has turned this team around. A team that was in a tie with Detroit and Buffalo for one of the worst teams in the Atlantic has now been on a massive win streak with Stutzle on pace for almost 100 points. Batherson being over a point per game. Sanderson getting an OT winner. There is a bunch to talk about with the Ottawa Senators as they have separated themselves and now find themselves in a playoff spot. We got a lot to discuss coming up in this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But before we get into the video, as always, guys, just want to remind you to hit that subscribe button. 92% to you watching have not hit that subscribe button. We just hit 8,000 subscribers as well. So if you guys want to help us reach that big 10,000 goal, hit the button down below. It's completely free. We'd really, really appreciate it. Mark, we got a lot to talk about coming up on this episode right now because the Ottawa Senators, they're on an absolute tear. Now, this video, just in case you're watching later, was recorded before their December 22nd game. But as of right now, they find themselves in a tie for the top wildcard spot with 38 points as Linus Ullmark has been putting this team on his back right now. 2.37 GAA and 7-0-0 in his last 7 games, Mark. We got to just talk about him first. This guy has been unbelievable. He had a rough start to the season at times, but he's found his stride. And right now, I don't think there's a hotter goalie, maybe even player in the entire NHL.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Ullmark, the first thing I want to put out there, I think the Bruins made the biggest fumble of the offseason. Moving on from Ullmark and keeping Swayman, the Sens got a steal, and it looks like the goalie of the future. Looking at the raw stats, like you said, looking at the stretch of games that he's had over the past 5, 6, and 7, he has been outstanding. A 969, nice. A shutout, a 926, a shutout, a 935. Ullmark has been the hottest player and the hottest goaltender in the NHL over the past 2 to 3 weeks, and I can't see him slowing down, and he's putting his name in there as a Vezina candidate for this team. I mean, looking at just the memes coming from him, looking at the fans being excited from him, looking at everything in between, Ullmark is legitimately making a case to be the best goalie in the NHL. We've seen it before. We're seeing it this season. Looking at this, Josh, do you think there is a chance maybe the Sens get a Vezina goalie?
I mean, as of right now, it's hard to say that he's not in the conversation. There's still a lot of season left to go. And of course, guys like Connor Hellebuck are still going to be at the top. The Minnesota Wild have started to struggle recently, so Gustafson's name is sort of falling off the radar as the Senators start to pick things up. As of right now, again, a 6-game win streak might be 7, might be more by the time you're watching this video. I mean, it's hard to say that he's not in the conversation. I mean, what was it? I have the stats here over his 7 games. Last 7 games, he's 7-0-0 with a .99 GAA, 967 save percentage. In the month of December, 7-0-1 with a 959 and a 1.23. I could just read out these numbers all day, but the point is, he has put this team on their back. He wasn't even in net for the recent win versus the Canucks, as they got their backup. Well, actually, I think it's their third stringer, a nice win. But it's not just him, though, Mark. I mean, we could talk all day long about Linus Ullmark, but we got to give some credit to Travis Green a bit, but also we got to give some credit to the other players. As this here too, and if you have a look through the stats here, there is a bunch of stuff to point out. As we mentioned in the intro, of course, Tim Stutzle and Drake Batherson, but they've been getting support all throughout their lineup. One of the biggest things so far this year, and in this win streak mainly, has been their depth scoring. I mean, they're getting lots of points from guys like Giroux, guys like Josh Norris, even Jake Sanderson. A lot of Sens fans are saying, like, this guy can do what Quinn Hughes does. Don't know if I can go that far, but he has these flashes where he might play like that. Mark, what do you think has been the biggest difference maker for them? I mean, for me, we'll get into the defense soon, I'm sure, but when it comes to scoring, Batherson has been one of these guys that has really stood out to me. 34 points in 33 games, and also helping Stutzle get up there towards that 100-point pace. It's been really crazy to see.
I mean, looking at this, you can see that Stutzle has been a huge part of this team, leading the team in assists, leading the team in total points. Brady Tkachuk has came around and scored 16 goals over the first half of the season. This team is just gelling on every level. The defensemen are stepping up. The defensive pairings have been great when we're looking at the depth, which we will look at shortly. Nick Jensen stepped up with a plus 16 plus minus. As much as I don't like plus minus, this is still impressive, especially for a team that has struggled. Looking at every forward on this team, it seems like they're gelling, and I want to give some flowers to Travis Green on just how he has got this all to work. He found the perfect combinations. We're seeing everything work in real time and how it's pushing them into a playoff spot. But looking at this, Josh, was there anyone other than Batherson that has really stood out to you?
I mean, on offense, even Sanderson's offensive production, we knew it could be there, and he's finally showing it a bit more this year. But there's like, I don't even know. I think Stutzle, like, we knew he could be good, and there's been stretches where people have started to criticize him, this and that. But to see that he's nearly a 100-point pace player right now has been one of the crazier things to me. But I also think we got to pivot to the defense because on defense, these guys have been great. And the pairing that I want to focus on right now is Thomas Chabot and Nick Jensen because of all defensive pairings in the NHL that have played over 400 minutes, right? So these are the most used defensive pairings in the league. They're top 10 in expected goals percentage at 55.2%. But that's not the only thing. You watch the games, Chabot finally looks like he's comfortable, right? He's able to move the puck well. Him and Jensen pair together very well, and there's a reason Jensen's up there in plus minus. Even Chabot's up there in plus minus. Their defense has been, I would say, better than expected over this last little win streak here. So it's not just their goaltending. Ullmark's getting a little bit of help as well from the guys in front of him. There's a lot of great things happening. You got the scoring, the elite scoring of Tim Stutzle, Batherson being a point per game. You got Chabot and Jensen, and of course, even Jake Sanderson and many other guys rolling with the Ottawa Senators. We take a look here at Tim Stutzle again, 39 points, playing almost 20 minutes on ice. This guy is everything that we expected him to be and more at this point. It's hard to pinpoint one specific thing, I guess, other than Ullmark, Mark, but like to me, again, if I go back to that defense, I think that's one of the things that's maybe the most slept on by Ottawa right now. I think a lot of fans around the league look at this team rolling. They see Ullmark, they see some of the scoring numbers, some of these guys putting up big points, but the Chabot Jensen stuff, I think, can fly under the radar, and the performance from their defensemen, I think, is one of these big keys that we really should be talking about.
Yeah, no, looking at this, the defense has been awesome. And like you said, they have been putting up. Sandstrom has been awesome. We've seen just everyone in between finally picking up. But I do think once we're talking so much about Stutzle, we did talk about Batherson. I do want to say on how incredible of a season he's
Yeah.
having. 33 games, 13 goals, 21 assists for 34 points, playing just under 18 and a half minutes. These guys seem like the future. Yes, Brady Tkachuk is a part of the future. Yes, he is the captain, and he is the future of this team. But it's nice to see these guys finally stepping up around him, having just consistency out of veterans, like you said, Drew, having consistently out of Tim Stutzle, having everything come together at this perfect point going into the Christmas break does show that the Sens want to be competitive from the defensive pairs, from the forwards, from the goaltending. Everything is working, and I think it's going to be a point where we see the Sens making that final push at the end of the year to get into the playoffs. Maybe we see them steal something other than a wild card spot and maybe push a round or two. But looking at this, do you think they're going to be adding at deadline, or do you think with what they're doing, with how they're playing, they might just go into the postseason and in the trade deadline thinking, hey, we don't need to change a lot?
I mean, it's hard to say, right? I mean, teams like it depends on the market. Teams they're always willing to address a need if the market is available for them. And right now, not sure what Ottawa's biggest need is. In net, they seem to be fairly stable. Their scoring is doing great. They got that good depth scoring. They got their defenses kind of rolling, though they could use maybe some improvement on their bottom pairing defenders. And we got like Hamonic, for example, has just had a lot of pretty poor games for Ottawa, so it might not hurt to get a little bit of an upgrade there. It is what it is. I mean, I think he's been playing with Sanderson too, which is interesting. But regardless, like if there's an option there, you go for it. I don't think you just sit back and roll necessarily. Like I wouldn't give up a key player, but if there's an opportunity to give up some like cheap stuff, maybe a middling prospect or some mid draft round capital for someone that could boost you on defense, that's probably not gonna happen. But you never know. And I think they'll be taking a look at the market. But my big final question here, as we go into ending off this video, do we see this team as a legit playoff threat? Because right now, as of the recording of this video, again, this may change after their December 22nd game. They're tied with Tampa, but Tampa has 3 games in hand, right? So there's a lot that can still go on. I mean, to be fair though, they're well ahead of Pittsburgh, so they're like solidly there in that second wild card spot, and they're what four teams away from the top of the Atlantic. But with this win streak, I mean, they are going to figure it out. They're figuring it out now. Linus Ullmark is very hot right now. He may cool off. Do you see this team as finally a legitimate playoff threat? I mean, it's hard to say after this small little streak here, but to me, this small little streak signifies something a lot bigger in the sense that that culture that people were complaining about didn't exist in the first couple months of the season seems to finally be there. The boys seem to be hyped. They got that solid goalie. The points are coming. When a team is confident, it's hard to stop them.
I mean, looking at this, I don't think they're going to go in and win the Stanley Cup, but anything can happen. We've seen the Montreal Canadiens make the finals just a few years ago, so any team can make it to the finals. But the biggest thing is, like you said, this is building more than just a couple wins. This is building characters in the room. This is building a winning culture in Ottawa, which, quite frankly, they lacked for quite some time. I think you were saying it was 2016 or 17 since they've went on a 5 or 6 game win streak.
Yep.
So looking at this, they're finally building this character. They're building momentum. They know what it tastes like to win. They want to continue this. I'm not sure if I think this team can go in and win 2 rounds, 3 rounds, or even a round. But getting a taste of the postseason, getting these young guys that haven't got a taste of the postseason is a huge step for this team. You build on this, you build this year. Even if you lose in the first round, you continue into next season with the hunger, with the taste of wanting to win it all. So I think this is a huge building year for the Sens. Even if they miss the playoffs by a point or two, yes, it's going to be devastating for fans, but this winning culture is going to continue, and it's only a matter of time before we see them being legitimate contenders to push for the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and it's fair enough to say that like fans get impatient after a while. And if you're an Ottawa fan, it's been a while that you've been waiting to try and finally get back over that hump. But again, no matter when that growth starts to come, if you start to establish that winning culture, like you said, you miss the playoffs by a couple points, or maybe you make the playoffs by a couple points, that makes such a big difference in fan morale. But as a team, you know you were so close. That's going to fire you up. No matter what, I know these guys are going to use this as fuel for the future. But let us know your thoughts down below. Is Ottawa a playoff team in your eyes right now? They're certainly sitting in a playoff spot. They're one of the hottest teams in the league. Ullmark is making his case for the Vezina. There's a lot to talk about. Let us know your thoughts down below. But that'll do it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. We got some big goals on the horizon, and we'd really appreciate it if you made it to this point of the video and you haven't hit it, to hit it now. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.